have to give permission for this. So I want to welcome you all to our in-person session with our specialist, Amy Smith, on mariachi music. We've had half a week. Amy started learning about this. Previous to the mariachi unit, we learned about Arab-based musics. So this is our second unit, and this is a course called Form and Analysis in Diverse Music. So we've been talking about, wow, what did we wish we learned that we didn't learn in music school when we start teaching these, other kinds of diverse musics. So everyone, would you please go around quickly? Maybe I'll call on you to make it efficient. Say your name, where you live right now, and what kind of music you're teaching. Okay, so let's start with Taylor.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I live just a few minutes away from Elizabethtown, so I'm in Pennsylvania, and I teach primary school music, kindergarten through second grade.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hi, Taylor.
Jade.
Hi, I'm Jade. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is just north of the Georgia border, and I teach pre-K through fifth grade general music.
Awesome. Hey, Jade.
Mindy.
Hey, I'm Mindy. I live in North Carolina, right in between Hickory. It's right between Charlotte and Asheville, about an hour from both. And I teach sixth grade general music and seventh and eighth grade chorus.
Awesome. Hi, Mindy.
Alejandro.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alejandro Ramos. I am a high school choir director, and I also teach a couple general music classes. And I also am right down the street from E-Town. I'm in Lancaster, PA.
Awesome. Welcome, Alejandro.
Colleen.
Hey, I'm Colleen. I live in East Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee. I live in Bluff City, and I teach in Bristol, and I teach preschool through fifth grade general music.
Awesome. Welcome, Colleen.
Jackson.
There we go. Hi, I'm Jackson. I live in Northeastern Pennsylvania, and I teach 7th and 8th grade general music, 7th through 12th grade choirs, and some life skills classes.
Awesome. Welcome, Jackson.
Jackson, do you teach band too?
I help out with band sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Like I've run a few rehearsals to cover. I was just at marching band practice the other day to help out because they're doing the 4th of July parade on Monday. So I'm not the band director, but I help out with some of it.
Okay, yeah, good. I thought you did that too.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Maggie.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I live in York, Pennsylvania, and I teach kindergarten and first grade general music.
Marissa.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi, I'm Marissa Golden. I live in Bradford, Pennsylvania, and I am a high school band director.
Hi, Marissa. Welcome.
Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Reep. I teach K through 6 general music, and I also live in York, Pennsylvania.
Nice to meet you, Marissa.
Or Emily. Yeah.
Sorry, Emily. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Zoom is crazy.
The names go by quick.
I know, and Marissa just moved her position on the screen. Okay. Not on purpose. It just happens. Abby. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Abby. I live in southeastern Pennsylvania, in a town called Doylestown. And this past year I was teaching high school choir. I was filling in for a position, and actually I just got happy news yesterday that I got the job offer for next year. So
Yay! All right.
Congratulations, Abby. That's great.
Thank you.
We've been holding our breath. Okay. Michelle.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle. I'm actually moving into a new position next year. I will be the elementary and middle school orchestra director.
Wow.
Previously, I taught kindergarten through third grade in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
We have a lot of jack of all trades, just like Amy Smith. Okay, Sarah. Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah. I live in Northern Virginia, but I teach in Washington, D.C., and I teach infants to first graders general music.
Welcome, Sarah.
And Ian?
Hi, Ian Davis. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I teach middle school band, guitar, and West African drumming.
Yeah, very cool. Nice to meet you, Ian.
So I think, did I get everybody here? We're missing two people that are not here tonight, Jared and Jamie. Jamie is traveling, and Jared, I'm not sure he had a conflict. So, but otherwise everybody's here. And Lisa Semsey might show up. She's the other faculty member this summer. Okay, so let me do a quick introduction of our presenter. I'm going to pull up something here just to introduce her. Amy's a nationally recognized performer and educator. She holds a bachelor's degree in music ed from Pennsylvania State University and a master's degree in music performance from the University of Colorado. She completed a degree in music therapy from St. Mary of the Woods College in Terre Haute, Indiana, and is now a board certified music therapist. As a member of the percussion group Kaisha Trio, she's performed across the United States and abroad. In 2001, Amy studied African music and dance abroad in Ghana, West Africa. She continues to offer workshops for educators and musicians on incorporating music of West Africa into the classroom. Many of you will be interested in that. Amy has taught in the public schools for over 25 years. She began her teaching career at Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I have trouble pronouncing that.
Murfreesboro.
Okay, thanks. Teaching band and music classes to inner city elementary students, and I got to know her while she lived in Indiana. She taught middle school band and choir in rural Brown County schools. She's currently a teacher and performer in El Paso, Texas, where she teaches orchestra, mariachi, and percussion at the Young Women's Leadership Academy, which is a college preparatory school for grades 6 through 12 dedicated to serving at-risk minority populations. Smith's orchestra and mariachi ensembles consistently receive top ratings in the Texas UIL music contest. In 2022, Amy was selected as one of the top 5 secondary teachers in the Ysleta Independent School District, which serves over 40,000 El Paso students. And I just want to say that I have collaborated with Amy both in conference presentations and working with her students, and I had the opportunity to observe her teaching. She is a master teacher. She commands respect, but also reaches high levels of not only music virtuosity, but also a sense of belonging with the students in her classes. And so I'm so thrilled to share her with you. I have a deep respect for Amy's work. And so I'm going to turn it over. Please welcome Amy Smith.
Thank you, Colleen. That was very kind of you to introduce me, and welcome to all of you. I think this is a beautiful class, studying form and analysis of diverse world musics. I wish that this was a class that I had been able to take at undergrad level or master's level, because our world hopefully is getting more connected and music styles are fusing, and I think the understanding of other styles of music outside your own culture also brings you more understanding and empathy to people who are different than yourself. So I think this is a beautiful class. So I'm very happy to be a part of it. And please, if you've got questions about anything that I'm sharing, I would love for you to interrupt and ask. In the middle of the session is fine. And I will also save time at the end if there's something else you want to dig into. So Colleen shared a little bit about my background. I have taught many different age levels. So I began teaching in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, as she said, and I taught kindergarten through 6th grade. And there I taught general music, band, and choir. So I did a variety at the elementary level. Then when I moved to Indiana, I transitioned to middle school, where I taught 7th and 8th grade. We had a junior high, that was our 7th and 8th grade building. And there I taught we had 2 levels of band, beginning band, advanced band. We also had 2 levels of choir, 7th and 8th grade choir. And then I taught theater classes. Of course, theater, because why not? Throw in another fine arts, right? Performing arts, but really enjoyed it there. And that's, where I got an opportunity to collaborate with Colleen on several different projects. And finally, my 3rd location is here in El Paso, Texas. And when I moved here, I started first looking for a band position. That's what I knew, that's what I'd done for years. And there were no openings, no band director openings, but there was orchestra. So I said, yes, let's do it. And then I interviewed and found out it's not just orchestra, it's also mariachi. And I said, yes, let's do it. Let's learn about mariachi. So the past 6 years has been a journey for me, and it's not over yet. Like, this is just the beginning of my understanding of how to best teach this beautiful and electric style of music to students who know the music better than I do, which is really exciting for me to have my students help me in the journey to learning the styles of mariachi. And of course, anytime you do something new, or I find anytime I do something new, I reach out and I search for resources. So when I first moved to El Paso, I called up people who I knew who might have taught mariachi in the past or had connections. And I said, who do I need to call? Who do I need to have a lesson with? Who do I need to talk to? And I started pulling resources and going to observe teachers teach and asking for what books did I need to purchase. And little by little, each year I learned a little bit more, and I observed more master teachers teaching mariachi. I bring in mariachi players to watch my ensemble and to give us comments and critiques. And I'm very proud to say this was the first year I took a mariachi group to the UIL Texas State Contest, which is in Texas. That's like a big deal to go to these UIL contests. So I was very, very pleased that we were able to put together a group that could perform at the level to compete. So that was really exciting for me to do that. And I'm hoping to show you a couple videos. I was mentioning to Colleen earlier that I'm teaching a jazz camp this week, a jazz for specifically girls, to get girls involved in jazz. And I just got home, so I was like setting up my computer and tuning instruments, and I didn't get a chance to pull up those videos. So give me just a second. I'm going to hunt to see if I can find those videos. If I can't, I'll pull them up a little bit later in the session. But give me just a minute to hunt for those, and then we'll dive into some mariachi music today.
No problem, Amy. Take your time. Yep. Do you guys have your guitars? Or something, ukulele? Yep. Good. I don't play guitar at all, so this will be my maiden voyage. I don't play strings. It's Who are the guitar players in the class? Anybody? Jade, Jackson, Ian. Where's Ian? Okay, he's black box right now. Too bad Jamie's not here, because she is one of the reasons I chose mariachi, because she said last year she wished there were more guitar in the schools. So, but she's not here, darn it. And she speaks Spanish too. Yeah, but she'll watch this later. I think she's traveling in Spain. Is that right, you guys? Yeah.
Okay, so I found one video that I thought would be a good one to start off with. And I used to Zoom all the time, but it's been a while since I've done all the sharing. So let me hunt here for screen share. All right, here it is. And let me see, share sound. See if there's anything else I need to share. Optimize video clip. I think that's okay. Let's see if that pulls it up. All right, can you see the YouTube video link on your screen? Okay, so let me go ahead and play this for you. This is the Young Women's Leadership Academy. That's where I teach, YWLA. This is our folklorico group and mariachi at our Dia de los Muertos festival, where all the mariachi groups from my district come and perform, and the folklorico groups perform. And folklorico is the traditional Mexican dances from different places in Mexico. This particular piece is a son jalisciense, which is from the Jalisco region of Mexico. And you'll see the bright colors of skirts. I love this style of dance, and the big, beautiful skirts when they twirl. And then you'll see my students on the far right side of the stage. They are wearing blue trajes. Trajes are their suits, the mariachi suits, with these big, beautiful scarves called rebosos that hang down from around their waist. So this is a piece called El Caballito. And this might have been one that I copied for you, Colleen. I can't remember if this was one of the examples that we looked at. But El Caballito is a 6/8-3/4 feel back and forth. So you'll hear that, and the dancers emphasize the rhythm of the music with their feet, which is kind of fun. So let's just watch it. It's a 2-minute video. So El Caballito. All right, love El Caballito. All right, let's see if I can unshare. Awesome. So that particular piece, I think, shows a very nice range of the instruments that are playing. You hear all of the strumming or the armonia instruments, including the guitarrón, which we'll show here in a minute, the vihuela, the guitar, and then the violin. The instrument that you don't hear in my ensemble is trumpet. I actually have one trumpet player, but she's a 6th grader and she was not yet able to play that piece. So we adapted a lot of other pieces for her, but that particular one, this was near the beginning of the year and she was not yet able to do that, especially because she had been on Zoom for 1.5 years. And so her whole beginning trumpet class was online. So when she got to me, she knew about 3 notes and could buzz. And I was like, yes, okay, we can work with that. Let's go. So we did, and she's doing great now. But I thought we'd go ahead and jump into the instruments and just talk a little bit about those. So first I have the guitarrón. And it looks like a very large guitar from the front. And on the back, you can see that it is not a flat shape like a guitar is. It's much more rounded. So it has a very large body to it. And it does have 6 strings. So most basses that you think of, like electric bass has 4 strings, acoustic bass has 4 strings. But this is a unique basso or bass instrument in that it has 6 different strings. And when I first started teaching mariachi, of course, I didn't even know the names of the strings on guitarón. I looked up, how do you tune a guitarón? And I learned that the strings are A, E, D, C, E, A. So the top and the bottom string, just like a guitar, are E and E for standard tuning. For a guitarón, it's A and A. So when I first started teaching this, I asked my students, how are we going to remember the names of the strings? So they came up with an acronym, and I use it still to this day because it sticks with me. So they came up with always. I'm going to change my sound here so you can hopefully hear a plucking. So always, do, good, cause, as in because, but leave out the B, cause everything's amazing. So we use that little acronym, always do good, cause everything's amazing. Oops. And so that gives the, that just helps them remember what notes to tune. Something that's unique about the guitarón is that all of the notes are plucked in octaves. So you're plucking 2 strings at a time when you play the guitarón. It's a little bit awkward to play sitting down, I feel, because of the large back. So it gives you like a large instrument to keep on your lap. But they're always plucked in octaves, and it's plucked like if you were gonna pick on somebody when you were a young child and you wanted to like pinch them. Sometimes you use the thumb and the middle finger. Sometimes I use the analogy like, oh, if you're gonna pinch your friend or just tease them or kind of bother them, that kind of thing, you pluck with the thumb and middle finger. Very advanced players might change fingers when they pluck. They always use their thumb, but they may change fingers. But for beginners, thumb and middle finger are typically used. So you pluck your A string, which of course is all open, to get your A. So anytime there's a single A written, you pluck both of them, which is kind of neat. And then all of the other notes are also plucked as well. Usually there's one open string. Well, if you have that pitch on the open string, you have one open string and then one stopped string. So for example, to find a D, always do good, cause everything's amazing. Always do. So I take this D, and then I take the C string, and on the C string, I put my fingers down one step in. There it is. You might notice I have a couple dots on here, little stickers. I use that sometimes for students if they need guidance. It's a quick, easy way, like put your fingers here on the green dot, and it's a quick, easy way to teach. I used to do that for guitar and ukulele sometimes too. But so then for a D, you would pluck your open D string and then your C string with the D higher octave, and you pluck them together. So you have your A, D, A, D, A, D. Usually the first couple songs you learn have A in it because A is one of the easiest ones to pluck on guitarón. So that's just a little bit about this lovely instrument. Again, I can dive in more if you've got more questions and are more interested in that. And the 2 middle voice instruments, the strummers, are the guitar and vihuela. Guitars, I know you're all familiar with, so let's look at the vihuela next. Also a small guitar, a little bit different shape, but has the body like the guitarón. It has that deep shell of the bass. And vihuelas, oh, I didn't bring a strap. Vihuelas are typically played with a strap around the neck that hooks here. So the hook comes underneath behind, and the hook grabs on here so that it provides some support for the performer. Guitars are usually played when mariachis stand and perform. They usually play with a strap the same way as well. And the strings have the same letter name as a guitar, but there's only 5 of them, so you leave out the lowest one. So the pitches are, so on a guitar we have E, A, D, G, B, and E from low to high, but we leave out the lowest one, so there's no 6th string. So the lowest string would be an A, and then we have a D, and I apologize, I was tuning this up and my G string slips and it's actually pulled out, so we'll only tune to an F sharp, but that's supposed to be a G. But we have A, D, this is supposed to be G, and then we have a B, which is a lower octave, B, and then it comes back up to a E, so A, D, G, B, and the last one is the E. So a lot of the fingerings are the same on guitar to vihuela, especially if you're playing the higher strings. So for example, one of the chords we'll use in De Colores is the D chord, or a D7, either one, but it's the same fingering. So you would use the 2nd fret plus the 3rd fret, and that gives you your D chord. One thing that's unique about the vihuela that guitar typically doesn't use is your thumb. So your thumb, and I should have said that about guitarón. Sometimes your thumb comes over the neck to help press down some of the strings. So on vihuela, the G chord, I think it's here. Except I feel so bad because when I strum it, it's not correct since my string was loose. But you sometimes use your thumb to help produce the pitches that you need for the chords. Okay, let's see. Guitar, vihuela. Any questions on those? Awesome. Guitarón, vihuela. So now guitar, again, the strummers who play guitar typically wear a strap around their neck that comes over, or comes underneath rather, and then hooks over the sound hole here. And most guitar and vihuela players use picks. And the pick for guitar is, I've got some in my pocket here. The pick for a guitar is usually held pretty close to the tip so that you can get a pretty strong sound. The mariachi players that I know like to use bass guitar picks when they play because they're stronger. I'm using just a regular guitar pick today, but bass guitar picks are just a little bit bigger and they give you a stronger sound. And the gentleman that I took some lessons with on guitar talked about strumming just from the top of the strings to the bottom of the strings, as opposed to bringing way up and down, especially when you get into your faster tempos. But so just your G chord, just making sure that you're going directly from the lowest string to the highest string, where you're not trying to go way up here and way down here, which is helpful for, again, our faster tempos and keeping in time with the ensemble. Let me think here. For De Colores, I would like to talk you through, I guess, the form and playing the chords. So I believe you all have a PDF of De Colores. Is that correct? That you can pull up? You know what? I actually have it. I can just share the screen as well. Let me do that. Give me just a second here to pull that up and I will bring that up.
Amy, I found it. Is this helpful?
Oh, yes, thank you. I found it, but it wouldn't open. I've never had a PDF that you click on it and it doesn't open. So I don't know if my computer is just tired today or what. Thank you. Beautiful. So on De Colores, the role of the guitar is to play beats 2 and 3 throughout the song. If you are playing it as a solo guitar player, I often pluck the bass note as well, so you can hear the boom, chick, chick, boom, chick, chick. And the style of De Colores is the ranchera valsera, which is the valse or the waltz. And this piece, they say that the ranchera developed in the country, like the ranchers that lived on the ranches. So the waltz is associated sometimes with more rural areas of Mexico. And this, of course, is one of the, I'd say, more well-known folk songs. And when I taught general music, De Colores was in the series that we used. I can't remember if it was Silver Burdette or one of the other ones, but it was one of the songs that they used to introduce traditional Mexican music to young students. And the words to De Colores are quite pretty as well, so we can talk through those. So the opening of the piece is in C, and I wanted to find out if you need some assistance on like chord positioning for your hands. Would that be helpful if I talk through where you put your fingers for C and so forth? I remember we had a gentleman who said he was a guitar player, so I'm sure you're already playing through this, but just to go through it one step at a time, when I teach this to my students, to the beginners, I usually don't, well, sometimes I start with a C chord. The book that this comes from starts, I believe, with the D and the A chord because those are pretty easy. They're right next to each other. But this particular piece starts on C. So we'll just dive in right on C. All right, so when you play a C chord, you need to put your first finger on the second string. And typically when you count strings on a guitar, 1 through 6, 1 is the string, the highest string, the one closest to the ground, and 6 is the lowest string, the one closest to your chin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 2 pieces of information that you need for each finger position. You know the string that you're putting your finger on, and you need to know the fret. So the frets, of course, are the boxes on the neck of the instrument. So you're going to take your first finger and you're going to put it on the second string, first fret. And then you'll take the second finger and you'll put it on string 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. On the second fret. I know it's a lot of numbers. So you'll put it on the D string, second fret. And then your third finger is going to go on the 5th string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 3rd fret. So now we have 3 fingers on 3 different frets for a C chord. And I'm trying to put it in the view window here. Your pinky does not need to play. There are alternate versions of a lot of these chords where you could play with all 4 fingers, but I just let the pinky relax. So we have first finger, second finger, and third finger. And when you strum a C chord, the lowest string is typically not played because it's an E. It's still in the chord, but it would be putting the 3rd in the bass, and that's not as common. So you typically only strum 5 strings. So your strumming, for my pick, when I sit down, here's one. Your strumming would go from your A string to your highest string. So I'm just not touching the lowest string at all. And the lowest note that you're playing here is a C. So that's the base of your chord. So if we play the music as written, there's a pickup in the violins and trumpets. They play 2, 3, and then beat 1, of course, is the guitarón, and then you strum 2, 3. So it's 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that gives you the first couple measures. If I were to pluck the bass note, then I would pluck with the pick, that very lowest note that my finger is on, the A string. I'd pluck, and then I'd strum, strum, pluck, strum, strum. Awesome. Transitioning is the hardest thing about playing guitar. So you can be like, okay, I got C chord, woohoo! You know, I'm on it. I can do C all day, right? But then all of a sudden somebody says, now you have to go to G chord. And you're like, okay, wait, G chord, where do my fingers go? And it takes a while to transition. So a strategy that I use when teaching beginners is I teach them 1 or maybe 2 chords, depending on their ability level. And I have them only strum the chords that they know, and they rest during the other measures. And I just saw a question, harmonia line. Yes, so the harmonia line is right above the guitarón. Excellent. Great question, Sarah, thank you. Correct, yeah, so the rest, strum, strum, rest, strum, strum is the underlying rhythm of the whole style of ranchera valsera. So that boom, chick, chick, that waltz feel. I'm singing the wrong key, sorry. But that's the da 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 Thank you, Colleen. So yeah, she just put up the harmonia part. So that's the essential style that we're getting towards, is the rest, strum, strum, rest, strum, strum. And when I just played it, and I realized I forgot to turn my original sound on, so I'm sure it didn't sound very clear. When I just played, I was adding the pluck. But if I had a student that only could play, let's say, the C chord and the D7 chord, then that student would play rest, C, C, rest, C, C, rest, G, G, rest, G, G, rest, D7, D7, rest, D7, D7, rest, G, G, rest, G, G, rest, C, C, and then they'd go back to C. So you give them the opportunity to be successful even when they might only know 1 chord. And I'll say, just play when the C chord comes up, just play that part. Okay, so let's go from a C to a G. And in the span of our short class this evening, I don't expect you to be able to transition between these chords if you haven't had much guitar experience. It takes, like anything, it takes multiple repetitions. And when I first started doing more guitar with my music therapy, I spent hours, sometimes even watching TV or while I was listening to a lecture, just moving my hand between positions. Just your left hand only. I wasn't even strumming. I would go, okay, these are the fingers for the C. All right, these are the fingers for the G, and so forth. Just to train these very small muscles in their small movements for this. Okay, so let's go from a C to our G. So put your fingers, if you will, back on your C chord. And to transition to a G, you will need to take, you can use any finger, there's 3 different fingers you can use, but I like to take this 3rd finger that's already close to the E string and just move it up a string. I find that that's the easiest one to put there. So I take my 3rd finger, 3rd fret on the E string, then I'll put the second finger right next to it on the A string, but the second fret. And then my pinky, which has been hanging out, now has to go to work. My pinky will be on the third fret as well, but the highest E string. So on this chord, I'm not playing my first finger. So I transition from a C to a G. And G chords, you can strum all of the strings because your lowest pitch that you've stopped here, you've created your bass note as a G. And G chords sound beautiful. Some individuals who are starting guitar find that it's very difficult to play their pinky. And so in that case, you can use these same 3 positions, but you can put first, second, and third finger on that. Some people prefer that position. Let me show you that again. I prefer using second and third right next to each other and then stretching the pinky to the E string. But if that is very uncomfortable for you, you can adapt it by just putting your other fingers in that spot. So the dots that I use when I'm teaching guitar, especially if the student is struggling to find the spot for their finger, and it takes practice and repetition. So if you're new at this today, be nice to yourself, be kind to yourself, and say that, you know, it's okay if it doesn't even feel comfortable today. But they're little Avery dots, different colors, and you can color code your chords, which is pretty convenient. So let me do that for my G and my C chords for you. So the G chord, which I just put orange stickers on, 1, 2, and 3 fingers. And let me go ahead and put the C chord. Because then, of course, your challenge is, can you go from a C chord to a G chord? And the answer is usually not right away. Usually it takes several repetitions. So the color coding now, I have yellow stickers on my positioning for the C chord. So if I put my first, second, and third fingers on the C chord, then you can see these 2 fingers transition to the next lowest string. So I move these 2 to the orange dots, and then I add my pinky. So that's my transition for my C to my G chord. Awesome. So if you're able to play both of these chords, great. If not, just put your fingers on one of them, and let's play the first 4 measures together. So we've got our C chord and our G chord. And I'm looking for my pick that blends in to, here it is. All right. So I'll give us a 1, 2, 3, 1, and then you start the strumming. So here we go. We'll do it at a slow tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 1, 2, switch. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Amazing. Let's do that again. Back to the beginning. Find your C chord. And this time, let's throw in another strategy that I use. You can't do this quite as well when you have a full heterogeneous ensemble, when you have your trumpets and your violins and all of your armonia together. But if you're taking just your armonia by themselves in a sectional, you can pause between the chord changes. So this is a strategy that I use. So let's do it. So this time we'll do our 2 measures of C, then we'll pause, we'll switch our fingers, and then we'll do our 2 measures of G. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Pause. Switch your fingers. Find your positioning for that G chord. And ready, here we go. Rest. G, G, rest, G, G. Excellent. So another strategy to use again when teaching beginners. The next chord is your D7 chord, which I always think of the D and D7 chords as a triangle. So the positioning, and then I'll put stickers on because it's much easier to see with a sticker. The first finger is the same as your first finger on C. So that would be your second string, first fret. So you put your first finger right on that same position. And then your next two fingers go on one string lower and one string higher. So I've got my second finger on the G string, second fret, and my third finger on the E string, the highest string, the first fret. So I have my first finger and then second and then third, and then make a triangle. The lowest note that you strum on the D chord is the open D. So you only need to strum the top four strings or the highest four strings on the D7 chord or D chord. So your lowest note is your D. If you wanted to pluck it, you could pluck that. And then of course, the strumming. Let me go ahead and put the dots on. Let's use pink dots for D today. Something to be aware of if you haven't taught guitar before or played a lot of guitar is you do need to press the tip of your finger into the fingerboard enough so that the string will vibrate. If you, so for example, my first finger right here, if I pluck that string, I want it to ring out da like a bell. If I only press very gently on the string, it dampens the vibrations. And you might experiment with that on your own just to say, oh yeah, you really have to press down hard enough to get that pitch to ring out. And balancing the pressure that you place on the string between all of the fingers, making sure that each string can ring out. Plucking each string separately can tell you if that string is actually producing a ringing tone. So I've got my pink stickers. I tried to overlap the pink and the yellow since that position is the same from a C chord to a D7 chord. So we have first finger, and then I stretch my second finger and then my third finger for that D7 chord. Beautiful. All right, let's see if we can play beginning to 19. And again, if you are not comfortable changing chords, because going from G to D back to C again can be tricky, I would say maybe just play the C chord, or if you want to just play a G chord, there's quite a few G's for a while, so you could just hang out on G and rest during the other chords that go by. Okay, here we go from the top. I'll give us a 1, 2, 3, 1, and then we'll jump right in. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1. C, C, rest. C, C, switch. G, G, rest. G, G, switch, rest. D7, D7, rest. D7 back to G, rest. Rest. Here comes the C chord, rest. C, C, rest. C, C, switch to G, rest. G, G, rest. G, G, rest. D7, D7, rest. D7, and then back to G. And then you hang out on G for a while. And then we're at measure 19, right there. Woo! Okay, how do we do? What challenges did you face working on those first few chords, especially if you're not a guitar player? What are some things that I can assist with? It's pretty self-explanatory. Guitar is an instrument that can really be done with a lot of self-teaching. There's so many resources online. You can Google, how do you play basic chords on guitar? And you can get all kinds of materials very quickly. My son, well, both of my children have learned numerous things online that I didn't even know you could. Like my son learned to solve a Rubik's Cube by just watching YouTube videos, and he could solve it in less than a minute. I'm like, what? And he also learned to play guitar by watching a lot of YouTube videos. It's quite amazing. Technology resources available today. So the next level of challenge, once you've got your chords changing in the mariachi ensemble, is that the performers are also all singers. So everybody sings at some point during a mariachi performance. What I like about this particular De Colores arrangement is that the lyrics are written in the armonia. They're written in all the parts, actually. So the violin also sees the lyrics, and the trumpet sees the lyrics as well. But singing and playing at the same time can present another challenge. It takes slow practice, and it takes, of course, lots of repetitions. Sometimes I have students that really struggle with both of those, the singing and the playing, so I have them do one or the other. So if we're just learning some guitar technique, I might say, okay, don't sing right now, I'll have the trumpet player sing because they don't play in this part. And then guitar players, you can just focus on your strumming. And then I have other days where I'll say, okay, let's have guitarón, you play, and let's have all the guitars sing. So they all practice getting the experience of singing the lyrics as well. I thought we'd do just a little bit with the vocals. If you are up for singing, great, sing along with me. If you're not up for singing and you just want to focus on the strumming, that's fine. Just find a spot, a place where you're comfortable. So we'll start at the beginning and we'll go just down to the end of that first phrase where we can see on the screen. That's fine. Just to the primavera. Oh, and next up would be lyrics. So let's chat just a little bit about some strategies that I use to teach the vocals in mariachi class. I love that many of you are choir teachers. You have such an advantage, I think, over me as a percussionist who didn't have as much choir experience growing up, in helping students produce great vocal tone. And mariachi, of course, you still have to have the great posture and the singing and the open throat, but sometimes the tone quality of mariachi singing is a little bit more nasal, and it also depends on the style of music. I am still learning about which styles of music you want a more nasal tone on. On the rancheras, I believe you should still use a more open tone. De colores, that has a more resonant tone. A style that we performed this year with my group called a son jarocho. That's the La Bamba is a very familiar one. That's a son jarocho. We performed one called Tilingo Lingo. And when I brought in the guest mariachi player and he heard my group sing and perform, he said, well, you're singing great. He said, but your tone quality doesn't sound like mariachi for this piece. So he said, this was a great strategy. He said, I want you to sing it on ña. Ña, 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 like if I did De Colores. Ña, 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 ña. You get a little bit more nasal quality by singing ña, ña, ña. And then he said, now put that into the lyrics. And then we went back and they had this brighter tone, a little bit more nasal tone that really brought to life that style of music. The piece, that Son Jarocho piece had an opening phrase that was, ay que bonito es bailar, which is how pretty is the dance, right? Ay que bonito, bonito is pretty. Ay que bonito es bailar. And my students were singing it pretty warm, I'd say. And then he came in and said it should be "Ay que bonitos bailar," like it should have a little more nasal quality, a little more brightness to it. And it really changed our performance of it when we had that knowledge. And I love the quote by Maya Angelou, I believe, that she says, "Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better." And I have been telling myself that for the past 6 years for mariachi. I'm just going to do the best I can today teaching mariachi. And then, when I learn that the tone quality is supposed to be more nasal, and then I know to do that. But until I know to do that, of course you can't. So I tell myself that a lot. Being a non-native Mexican, a non-native culture bearer of mariachi, I come to this music very humbly, and I recognize that I am someone coming from the outside into this beautiful style where there's a lot to learn. And I remind myself daily that I'm gonna make mistakes, and I might not do it right the first time, but the more I learn, the better I get at it. So that's always a good thing to learn when you're approaching musics that you are not familiar with from your own culture. So that's a beautiful thing. Okay, all right, I gave your fingers a little break. Let's play. So we'll do beginning until the end of the first phrase.
You're going to tell us the pronunciation.
Oh, let's do that. That's right. So strategies for teaching lyrics. I am a very novice Spanish speaker. I've been working on it. I took Spanish in high school, but if your Spanish in high school class was like my Spanish in high school class, we didn't really learn a lot of Spanish. We did a lot of worksheets, and like that was about it. So when I moved to El Paso and I realized almost everyone here speaks fluent Spanish, I really worked hard to try to improve my skills. I'm not great yet. I can speak a lot of broken Spanish, and the custodians at my school are amazing, and they help me every day. I try to speak with them in Spanish, and they correct me. So my students correct me as well. So let me give to you the pronunciations in short phrases, and then I'll have you echo. So let's speak the words first. De colores. De colores. De colores. De colores. Se visten. Se visten. Los campos. En la primavera. Primavera. So the translation, de colores, means the colors. The colors se visten, which are the colors I see. Visten is I see. Los campos means, I believe, the countryside. So the hills or the land. I see the colors on the land. En la primavera, which is in the spring. So you can imagine looking out in the countryside of Mexico in the spring. I might see bluebonnets or sunwheels or different kinds of wildflowers that are blooming, and that is the image to me that comes to mind in this song. Good. So let's look at dissecting just the lyrics as a melody. So I will sing a short phrase and then you can echo me. So this is right at 19, verse 1. I'll sing a phrase and then you can echo. De colores. My turn. De colores se visten. De colores. Los campos en la primavera. Los campos en la primavera. Beautiful. Let's put all that together. Good. Just that same phrase. All right, right at 19. One more time. So without the echo, you can just sing with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1. Ready, sing. De colores. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. I forgot to change chords. Beautiful. Let's do that one more time for me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. De If you are super comfortable with your chords, I'd say go ahead and jump in. If you're not, another strategy that I use when teaching is dampen strumming. I love this strategy. It helps them understand the movements that they have to do while they're singing, or even just the movements to the pulse of the song. So you just place all of your fingers gently on the strings. So you get a very stopped sound. You don't even work up the left hand at all, and you work on the strumming. So I just take my pick and I'm gonna go rest, strum, strum, rest, strum, strum. But students can work on singing while adding the strumming pattern. That's one less thing to worry about, and that helps again break down some of the skills needed to perform this. So let's do it at 19. If you're already jumping in on the chords, you can do the rest, strum, strum. You can do the pluck, strum, strum, or you can do dampen strumming while we sing. All right, here we go. I'll give us 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. Yeah, very good. Good. Excellent. Let's do that one more time and challenge yourself to do one more thing with your playing. So maybe you do 1 chord or 2 chords, or maybe you add a 3rd chord. Except we don't need C in this section. We just need G and D. So maybe you just hang out on the G chord and you just strum G, and if you can't get to D in time, leave out a measure until you can. So that's always good. All right, one more time. Here we go.
Amy,
Yes,
can you review how to do the G fingers?
absolutely. The G chord is our one of my stickers already came off. Let's put another one on there. These stickers don't last forever. Sometimes they last just long enough until you memorize where your fingers go. All right, so G chord. Yeah, this is a good one to know for this section. So I use 2, 3, and 4, so I don't use my pointer finger. And I put 2 and 3 on the 2 lowest strings. So my 2nd finger is on the A string, 2nd fret. My 3rd finger is on the lowest string, the E string, on the 3rd fret. And then my pinky is the one that comes all the way back here. It's nice and bendy, and it lands on the highest string, on the highest E string. And you do strum all the strings. It is a challenge to keep your fingers sometimes off of those middle strings, so you can always check it by plucking each string to see if they all ring. And if they don't, if you get a dead one, then you know, oh, I've got to press that down into the fingerboard a little bit more. Beautiful. And you do get to strum all of the strings for G. It's a nice full sounding chord. All right, here we go. So challenge yourself to do one more thing, whether it's the plucking or the strumming or singing and plucking, your choice. Challenge yourself wherever you are. All right, I'll give us 2 measures and we're at 19. And 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, play. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. Beautiful, beautiful. Good. Questions, comments, concerns? Is anyone up for playing through the whole song? We can talk a little bit more about lyrics. I know we're already at 6:30 my time. I believe that's 8:30 your time for some of you. So I certainly can. I have extra time. I'm happy to go longer, or if you've got extra questions, we can pause And or we can play through the song if you would like to do
Right.
that.
How about if Amy, you do the whole, like one round of the song and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay,
And we
beautiful.
can jump on as best we can. I just play
Perfect.
G. That's all I do.
That's great. You can do just the G's when they come up. Awesome. I'm
Okay.
gonna go pull out my paper copy of this. It's in my
Okay.
other room, and I'll bring it back. That way I can get all of it.
Just so we can hear the song, even though some of you have heard this before. Wow, guitar's hard. Ian, you're the god. But you know, I'm going to practice 3 chords now. G, C, and D7. My fingers hurt. Is that normal?
It is normal, and eventually, I'm sure Ian can tell you. If he's our guitar player, I'm sure you develop calluses on the tips of your fingers. But until you develop them, it can be quite painful.
Yeah.
The tips get a little bit sore. My students experience that too. They're like, Miss, my fingers hurt. I'm like, yes, that's okay. Developing your strategies. The book, I believe, Colleen, you shared the resource where these songs are from. It's from Mariachi Mastery, and this book has been invaluable to me. It really walks you through the exercises that lead you up to the song. So each song comes with several exercises where you just practice the strumming, where you might practice some of the vocals or the rhythms involved. It is helpful. I'd say if students haven't had any music reading experience, this dives right in. So you would have to supplement this with, this is a staff, this is how you read notes, this is a measure, this is a fermata, this is a quarter rest. You'd have to supplement that if you were to teach mariachi with beginners. Most of my students have some reading experience, but if they don't, I supplement this book with what they need to get caught up. I love some of the opening pages, just to show a little bit here. It's got pictures of how you hold the instrument, all the different parts are labeled, and everything is labeled in 2 languages. So everything in this book is printed in English and Spanish, which is beautiful. All right, de colores. Just to briefly share with you the translation of the rest of the lyrics, we did the first part of the verse, the de colores se visten los campos en la primavera. I see the colors in the country in the spring. The second phrase at measure 31 is de colores. De colores son los pajarillos que vienen de afuera. Son los pajarillos are the birds. So it's singing the colors now of the birds. Vienen de afuera, when they are outside. Venir. And correct me if I'm wrong, for those of you who speak Spanish, venir, I believe, is to come when the birds come outside or when they are outside. Afuera is outside. And then the third phrase at measure 43 is de colores. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir. I love this phrase. Es el arco iris is a rainbow. Arco iris is the rainbow. Que vemos lucir, that is, lucir, I believe, is luminescent or bright, that shows the colors in the rainbow. And then we get to 55, the section that I would call the chorus. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí, which is, y por eso los grandes, the big love, grandes amores De muchos colores, of the many colors that I like. Me gustan a mí, that are beautiful, or that I love for me. And then that repeats, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. And then there's a second verse that sings about the animals. The second verse is canta gallo, which is sings the rooster. So the rooster sings, then the chicken sings la gallina. And then finally, my favorite part on the last part of the second verse is the los polluelos, which are the baby chicks, the baby chickens. Los polluelos con el pío, 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 which is the sound that the chickens might make if they were going, chirp, 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 or cheep, cheep, cheep. That pío, 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 that's just a onomatopoeia, right? The sound of the sound. All right, let's start at the beginning. And I will play the introduction, and I'm going to sing the violin part, which is the y por eso los grandes, but I'll sing it on la, 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 la. And then when I get to 19, I will sing the words. So if you want to go ahead and keep the harmonia part up, that's a little bit easier to look at. Thank you for doing all the scrolling. It's hard to scroll when play guitar at the same time. All right, here we go. Pulling up my pick here. So I'll give us a 1, 2, 3, 1, and then I'm gonna sing those 2 rests. I'll sing those 2 pickup notes, da da dum, and then that's where we begin our strumming on the C chord. So if you want to do C chord, you can jump in on C. If not, you can wait till the G. There's a lot of G's in this song, so that's a good one. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1. Da 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 da. Here comes 19 right here. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajarillos que vienen de afuera. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores, second ending, me gustan a mí. Bum, 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 bum. And that's the trumpet and violin at the end. That's very common ending. Dun, dun, dun. Very common for a lot of mariachi pieces. So, very fun. Excellent. How can I be of service? What is it that I can assist you all in your journey to discover mariachi music and or share it with your students?
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
When you're teaching to your students and your ensemble rehearsals and things, do you teach more as a whole? Do you teach the song as a whole first, or do you tend to break it down the way that you said it was sequenced in the book?
Excellent question. I do a variety of strategies, and I usually like to introduce the piece with a recording. Sometimes I demonstrate parts of it, but because there are so many parts in a mariachi ensemble, just like your band or orchestra, I can't play guitarrón, trumpet, violin at the same time. So I usually introduce it with a recording or a video so they get a sense of the piece. We usually talk about the history of the piece or the lyrics. And in my case, my students often help me translate. I can usually find a close translation on Google Translate. Sometimes I can just type in De Colores, lyrics, translate, and you can find a set of lyrics. But as you know, Google Translate is not always perfect. So my students and I discuss those lyrics, and if they are not able to discern the meaning of the poetic text, because as we know, lyrics and poetry are not like speaking conversational Spanish or English. You know, songs don't always make sense in the way there's a lot of analogies or similes or references in poetic text that might not be something they use on a regular basis conversing at home. So then I go to my go-to resource, which is the Spanish teacher at my school. And I call up Miss Aziz and I say, Miss Aziz, here is the phrase. What does this mean? And she usually has much more cultural context to help me understand what the phrase is. So after I introduce the piece as a whole and we understand the piece, I usually break into sections. I find in my situation, I am the only mariachi teacher at my school. So I have a whole class of beginners through advanced students, 6 through 12. So I have students that have played for 4 years, students who have never played their instrument before. So I divide into groups. I usually divide and conquer. So I have an advanced group working on something else. I take my beginners, and I'll take my trumpet player over here and I work with her a little bit and say, practice this. Then I'll go to my violin, practice this. And then I'll go to my guitars. Okay, here's your first chord, practice this 5 times. And then I do a lot of rotating and have them do some self-study. But then once they have enough skill to play through little parts of the song, I try to bring them together relatively early in the song learning process. Understanding how the guitarón part fits with the strumming part, the guitar and the vihuela, is very important. Boom, chick, chick, boom, chick, chick. So hearing those parts together is invaluable to understanding the whole piece. So I guess the answer is I do some of both. Sometimes I have, once they have some individual skill on a certain song, then I have them all play together. And then sometimes, you know, after 2 days of doing some of the exercises or working on the introduction to De Colores, then we go back into our sectionals and I float. You know, I give each sectional an assignment, work on these measures until they can play that on their own. Then we come back together again. That's an excellent question. Sarah, did I answer that clearly enough for you, Emily?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, this is kind of like a small niche question, but I'm a singer. And so I noticed like the singing and the lyrics and like how the tune is happening. And I noticed in De Colores and then also in some listening exercises that we have that the harmonies are typically above the melody. And that's not like as someone trained in choral music of the Western style, like usually the sopranos are the highest and they have the melody and the altos are below us with the harmony. And I was noticing like at the descant maybe or the high harmony. So is that typical in a lot of mariachi music? And is there like a name for that? Or I just like, I noticed it because I was like, wait, hold on a second.
Excellent question. And from my understanding is that is relatively common. So the pieces that I've taught over the past few years, I've seen that in a lot of pieces. It's not in every piece. Sometimes the harmony is the sixth below, like sometimes you have them moving in sixth, but not always. And what is common is that most of these pieces are written for male voices. So they're usually written so the men sing down an octave. And of course, my adolescent females cannot sing a lot of these arrangements because they're out of our range. So sometimes I have to transpose into different keys, or I just adjust the harmonies, or we sing this part and we don't sing this note because we can't get to that low E or something like that. I don't know if it's common in specific styles. That certainly it could be the case, but I'm not familiar enough with the way the harmonies are written on the vocals. But I know that I've just seen it. I've seen it quite a bit.
I also had, sorry if I'm like taking over question time, everybody. I also had just another question. In the reading, it talked a lot about women kind of not being accepted at first into this. So have you received any pushback leading an all-female ensemble of this type? Or have you kind of been embraced by this? Because, you know, the tradition is more male, masculine.
The tradition is definitely masculine and definitely more male. And most of the mariachi players in El Paso even are male. But when I came here, I sought out some female mariachi players who are professionals and also educators. So one of the first women that I observed was Cindy Cabada. She grew up playing mariachi. She played through high school and college with her family's mariachi band. They gigged together, which is very cool. Excellent teacher, and I went to observe her and like took notes on everything that she did and used that. She's been a great mentor for me. I have found in El Paso, the community here is very accepting and very supportive of anyone learning mariachi music. And me as an outsider coming to mariachi, I have found they have been very supportive in helping me. But typically, you're right, it is a male-dominated genre. It is really, and especially the arrangements. I cannot hardly find arrangements for my middle school beginners. So that's something that either I have to arrange or, you know, I ask around, do you have a piece that's good for, you know, young female voices that are not developed as well? It's I think a challenge, and that's something we discuss at my school a lot. Like, this is something that not a lot of women do professionally. There are some female mariachi professional groups out there in LA. There's a couple, Mariachi Reinas, the Queens, and there's a couple others. Mariachi Tolo Ache, I believe, is another group that has performed on the Tiny Desk concerts on NPR. So I've seen a couple groups, but they're not common. So thank you for asking. But no, I haven't. I've experienced a lot of support in this community. Everyone here loves mariachi music. Good. Other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Abby, yes.
Hi, this is another just like small kind of curiosity question. Do you ever get like pushback from any students on singing while playing? Because it's just here in Pennsylvania, it's just so interesting. This is not we don't have mariachi in schools. I feel like there aren't a lot of situations where like, you know, there are guitar classes and stuff, but I feel like there's more pushback on like the singing while playing. So I'm curious if you ever experience that or if it's more embedded.
Is it the pushback from the student, you mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like I don't want to do this. Like
I do on occasion have girls that say, you know, oh, miss, I don't want to sing. Or especially if I offer them to sing a solo, like, do you want to come up to the microphone and sing? You know, they might sing in the ensemble, but they might not want to be the person up front. So I do get that. I start the class by saying everybody sings. And I typically do a vocal warm up every day in class. So even though I only have 45 minutes, like before we even get out instruments, we're all doing some stretching, we're doing whoop, oh, we're doing some vocalizing, and then we're doing solfege. In mariachi, they do sing solfege a lot. In Spanish, I recently learned that they sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. So they use C instead of T for their seventh scale degree. But I typically sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, since that's what I was taught. I'm most comfortable with that, but I let them know that that is often sung with a C if you're singing with other Spanish speakers. Oh, good question. Everyone fixed do. In my understanding is traditional mariachi music, singers who sing solfege do use fixed do. They use C is do. I use movable do because if I'm in a different key or I have to transpose something for students, for me and for my mind, it's easier for them to hear do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do in the different keys to hear their pitches. But the mariachi singers I've come across typically do use C as their fixed do. And I do get the pushback. I encourage students to work on singing in a safe space. We talk a lot about this, that we are all here to support each other. We work on some strategies for performance anxiety. That's sometimes where it stems from. Sometimes it's just they cannot do both. Like my guitarón players who are doing some syncopated bass lines, they usually cannot sing, and I tell them, don't sing. Your job is to play doom, 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 doom. Like that's your job, to play that accurately. If you can throw in a chorus here or there, great. If not, that's your job. And typically I tell that to a lot of the performers when they're beginning, that if you can't do both, focus on the playing, and we'll have the more advanced students do the singing and playing. But I do have students that I remember last year I had a couple girls, no miss, I don't want to go up to the microphone. No, I don't want to. So sometimes we do it in pairs. We might have 2 or 3 kids come up together, say, okay, you're going to be featured on this song together, and the 3 of you are going to sing together. That sometimes helps. I don't have a perfect solution for that. Some kids are less interested in being the center of attention. And that microphone can produce anxiety in a lot of students. So we work on that, and we practice with a mic in class as well. And Sarah has a question. Fixed do is where C is always do, correct. So in fixed do, C is always do, and all of the other pitches are based on that. So it'd be do, D, re, mi, like you'd even do a chromatic scale that every note has a specific solfege. Other questions, comments, concerns?
I have a question. Are all of your mariachi players Mexican American? And if they're not, is there ever any conflict or tension between your Mexican American players and those that don't have Mexican descent?
Good question. Our school is 90% Hispanic, and of the Hispanic students, I'd say probably they're all Mexican. I don't think we have any Peruvians or Colombians or Venezuelans in our particular district. So I'd say 90% Hispanic. So, but not all. So I do have a few girls that are not Hispanic. I don't typically get any kind of conflict between them. Mariachi music is a very revered style of music in the Mexican border region. And anytime people hear mariachi bands, they're really supportive, they clap, they really enjoy it. People dance, people sing along, they know the songs. These are the songs often that their grandparents listen to. So the students I teach, 11 and 12-year-olds, they might not know De Colores, but their grandmother might, I think that's a song my grandmother or my grandma said she knows the song. My abuelita, she used to hear this song or listen to this song. But a lot of even the girls who are non-Hispanic heritage embrace the culture and the mariachi because it is a very revered art form, and the trajes, the suits that they get to wear, it's a very special thing to wear a traje. Just like putting on your prom dress or something, like you feel important and you feel special when you're wearing that, no matter your heritage. And I think it helps bring them together too as a class to celebrate the music of the culture. That's a great question.
I have a question because I know a few of us teach like little kids. Do you have any suggestions for how to introduce this to younger kids, like kindergarten, first, second, and have them participate without watering down the music?
Absolutely. I would do movement. So what comes to mind, of course, a lot of the mariachi pieces are written with the ballet folklorico, there are dances that go with them, not all, but many of them. And so I would introduce it. So if I had a recording of a piece that I wanted to to introduce to the students, I might play it first and ask them to share with their neighbor what was the feeling of the music. I always like kids to talk. So I've recently learned if you have a large class of students and you say, what did you hear? Raise your hand if you heard something, or what can you share? Sometimes you only get a few students that want to answer. But if you give everybody a partner and you say, okay, A-B partners, player A, player B, I want you to talk to your partner. What did you hear in that music? And what did you notice? And so there's no wrong answer. Anything that they noticed. Oh, I noticed fast music. I noticed high notes. I noticed there's some strumming, or maybe they heard guitar. Who knows what they will point out. And then I would develop some sort of movement that matches the form of the piece. I think that helps kids understand, okay, so this is the chorus. And it could be something that we do together. So if it was De Colores, it could be a pat, clap, clap, De Colores, De Colores. And some of the songs you might want to sing with them. De Colores, I think, is one you could do with young children. Some of the more technical mariachi songs you might not sing, you might just do some movement. But maybe the A section you do this, and the B section maybe you tap your shoulders on the big beat, that kind of thing, just to feel a difference in the motion. Certainly you could do more locomotor movement. You could do let's do step, touch, step, touch, step, touch. You could try some different things with moving around the room. Or if there's a really clear difference in the tone or texture, you could say, I want you to walk during the A section, and when the music changes, then I want you to walk backwards, or then I want you to stop and pat the beat on your legs or something, so that they're involved in the music through kinesthetic means.
You could also, for like your older primary kids, pull the nouns from this, like primavera, pajaritos, like the things that are attached to concrete objects, and tell them those words and show pictures and see if they can like go on a scavenger hunt while you sing or play the song. And like, put your thumb up when you hear, el arco iris. Put your hands on your head when you hear pajarillos, things like that, if you want linguistic attachment.
Excellent strategy. I love that. Any other questions?
I put something up on La Raspa to you'll see that in Canvas. Amy helped me find some of those materials too.
I find when I taught general music, I did incorporate some mariachi music. I didn't know very much about mariachi, but as I mentioned, it was in the book series that I had at the time for the elementary level. And so the recordings were good quality recordings, and I believe they incorporated some simple percussion instruments. Mariachi typically does not use percussion in a performance-based, but adding some maracas to a upbeat song is generally fun for kids, so you could add maracas on the A section or claves on the B section, and just even keeping a steady beat would be a fun way to involve them in the music making.
So I know it's late. If anybody has to go, feel free. But if you have any more questions, Amy said she'd stay, but don't feel you have to hang out here if you're tired or you need to go. That's fine. This will be archived in Canvas, which you can go back and watch if you need to. Okay.
Right, well,
yeah, why don't I officially give us an opportunity to thank Amy here at this juncture, and then if you need to go, you can go. Yeah.
Thank you. You all have been so attentive and so participatory on the Zoom session. Thank you for joining me this afternoon, and thank you, Colleen, for letting me come in and share my small bits of knowledge on mariachi with you. I really enjoy this art form. I enjoy teaching it, and I think it's a beautiful thing to introduce students to world cultures. So good job. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy. It's
Yes,
great. Yeah. More questions?
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks, Abby.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sarah.